Hey y'all, it's your girl Mariah Sincere, and I am back with another live. I just wanted to try to play around with the times that I go live because I know sometimes everybody can't make it to a Friday or a Saturday live, and I really want to start doing some lives around lunchtime just for the sake of staying consistent and being able to reach everybody. So I'm gonna give some people some time to get in the room. As y'all come in, please remember to hit that like, comment, and subscribe button. Also, guys, I am doing coaching. You just have to email me. I'm doing it at a very reasonable price. So my email will be in the description box. It's also in my banner. So if you need any type of coaching on any life situation that you're dealing with or something that you're having issues with, hit me up. I got you. I know how to change my life. Okay, that's one thing I did when I decided I wanted my life to change and that I wanted to move in a new direction. I got me a plan and I worked it. So if you need help with that, I'm here for you. Um, Another thing I want to let y'all know is that I also do have a travel channel. It's called ThePassportSis, as well as my TikTok is called ThePassportSis. So if you are into travel, go ahead and check those channels out after my video. So today we are going to be talking about the rise of child-free women, okay? Because at this point, it's the epidemic, y'all. These women are saying they don't want to have nobody's kids, okay? And it's not just a certain group of women. It's not just um African American women or white women. Like, no, there are Asian women, it's Muslim women, African women, women all around the world are saying, baby, it's time to close this shop up. And or they're just not having any at all. There's another movement called for one and done. There are a lot of women who have one kid and they're like, baby, I'm not having no more. And you can tell that people are nervous. Okay, I just saw that Kamala Harris on her platform, she was offering for her economic platform, she was offering some type of incentive, some type of tax incentive for newborn children, which was crazy to me because people have children who are already here. So I guess they were trying to offer people money to have kids. And honestly and truly, the only people who would be moved by an incentive like that are broke, poor minded people, because nobody who knows anything about money is going to say, hey, I'll get, a $6,000 child tax credit during income tax season. Let me go ahead and have some kids. No, nobody who is physically and financially responsible is going to do something like that. It's only going to be poor people, and not even just poor people, because I don't want to insult all poor people, but poor people who are poorly educated, who don't know how to do the math, because the math is simply not mathing on that one, especially when you add up the cost of childcare, Pampers, um, time spent away from work, money lost from work. So to offer a $6,000 tax credit for people to have children, that's just not going to get it. And what you're going to have is the lowest of the lowest having kids to get that type of tax credit, because they can't even think for themselves. They just hear $6,000 and it's time to go. So to me, that was wild, but that's what's going on. It is a response to the low birth rates, not just here in the United States, but most of the already developed or developing nations are experiencing lower birth rates, and they're trying to make up with it through immigration, but at this point, it's not keeping up. So, again, I'm going to go ahead and get started. We're 5 minutes in. As you come in, just go ahead and hit the like and comment. So, I made it a point to put together some TikToks that I found and make sure that there were different type of women on here, that there were different faces of the child-free movement. Some of these women, like the Sovereign Woman, who is on YouTube and TikTok, y'all might have already seen. Now, let me be clear. I do have a child. I have one child. I highly doubt I will ever have another child. And there are several reasons why. I'm going to get into it after we go through these TikToks. But what I will say, and I want to make it clear, I am very happy that I have my daughter. She is a wonderful girl. If I could go back and go through everything I went through in life to have her specifically again, I would, because I feel like she's my mission, right? But before I had a child, I did not really want to have kids. That was not something that I saw for my future. It was not something that I was desperate or thirsty to have. Okay. What happened was I was irresponsible. And not only was I irresponsible, I was ignorant about the way that birth control works. Um, so I ended up getting pregnant and having a child. And I would have her again. And when I found out that I was pregnant with her, there was no doubt in me that I should have my child. Y'all understand? Like, at not one point did I think of going and having an abortion. Even though before I got pregnant with her, I said if I ever got pregnant, I would go have an abortion, right? Like, I was dead set on that. Anybody who knew me knows that's what I was saying, right? But once I had my child, I didn't even think about abortion. Like, it was out of the question once I found out that I was pregnant, right? But there are a lot of women who they get pregnant and they have this deliberation and they're not as steadfast in it, or there are so many other things going on in their lives to where they know they should not have a child, so they make a different decision. And I'm definitely not judging them on that. I'm just talking about my individual experience, right? But there are many women who have never been in that predicament, never been pregnant, and are doing their best to not get pregnant and have a kid. And society is judging them. Society, we see all of these bad stories in the news about parents who can't afford their kids, getting frustrated, and they're folding. They're unaliving their own children. They are laying hands and feet on their own children, and we're seeing these news stories every day. Yet we see so much pressure coming from politicians and right wing people. And I don't want to cast all right wing people in this light, but we see so much pressure coming from one side, the manosphere, trying to convince women that their sole purpose is to be having children. And we see that the way society is going, the direction it's going in, it just does not even support every woman having children in mass. So it makes absolutely no sense to me. But let's go ahead and get into these TikToks. I don't have my headphones, so I'm going to go ahead and mute my mic so that y'all can hear these TikToks.
That serious. It was never that serious. You know what it never was? That serious. It was never that serious. You know what it never was?
Okay, I'm sorry about that, guys. So this is a Muslim woman, and basically she's saying, baby, it's not that serious. It's not that serious. Now, and I brought her up here specifically to show y'all this is not just women that were raised in Western values. Okay, this is women all around the world who were saying, nah, like we're good. I'm not having kids. And of course, there's societal pressure. I think a lot of grandparents or mothers and fathers, like she was responsible. Okay, I'm so sorry about that, y'all. But yeah, we are in a generation of grandparents who don't even want to watch their kids. We're in a generation of grandparents who are going on vacation every weekend. We are in a generation full of aunties, uncles, grandparents, all of that who are out living their own life, but yet still pressuring people to have children. And I need y'all to make it make sense. Guys, give me one sec. Okay, I'm connected. Good. I need y'all to make it make sense. Okay, let's go to the next one. I'm gonna mute myself again, y'all.
Wanted to be a mom. Always. I love children and always wanted a big family. I teach kindergarten in a private school. I am not kidding when I say I adore children. My husband and I ended up needing to do IVF. We got pregnant our first IVF transfer. My pregnancy right from 7 weeks on was difficult. I ended up spending almost the entirety of my pregnancy admitted to the hospital because of a placental abruption. I was induced at 36 weeks due to preeclampsia. During delivery, I had multiple seizures due to high blood pressure. My heart stopped and I technically died. A code blue had to be called. I needed a blood transfusion and was rushed into surgery to remove the placenta because it was coming in small pieces. I woke up the next day and was admitted to the ICU. After a week in the hospital, we were discharged home. 2 weeks into parenting, the colic and the reflux set in. This baby cried for 22 hours a day and would not sleep. My husband worked a lot and I had absolutely no support. I do not even remember the first year of her life. She was never happy or content as a baby or a toddler. She ended up being diagnosed with autism, ADHD, OCD, and severe anxiety. She is now 9 and last year was admitted to the hospital for 3 months because her rage and aggression are so bad. She has destroyed our home, hurt our pets, fractured my jaw when she slammed my face into a table. She has picked up a knife and thrown it at me. She doesn't have a regular school schedule. I had to quit my job to stay home with her. We still have no help or support from family and friends. We are constantly fighting the medical system. I have given up every bit of myself to be a parent. I am a shell of the person I was before having kids. I wanted at least 4 children, but 6 months ago had a radical hysterectomy. This is not what I envisioned parenting or our family would be, and I very quickly realized that I am not cut out for this. I adore my daughter and have gone to insane lengths to ensure she has the support she needs, but this is hard. If I could turn back the clock knowing what I know now, I would not have a child. We are drowning and there is no life preserver in sight. There's nothing that can prepare you for how hard it is having a child with special needs, how lonely and isolating it is, the toll it takes on your marriage, your mental health. I will continue to love my daughter and be the best parent I can be, but inside I am dying and I hate every single second of it. I always knew I wanted to be a mom.
That's terrible. I'm sorry, that's terrible. It sounds like she had Rosemary's Baby it sounded like she had a child of the corn. And I'm not gonna like, if you have a special need, this is nothing against special needs kids or special needs people. I want to make that very, very clear. And there are differing degrees of special needs, differing diagnosis, right? But when you have a kid that is constantly disruptive, a kid that is constantly throwing things, hurting people, hurting animals, laying their hands and feet on you, it is very difficult to live your life. Um, I used to work in schools, and a lot of the times those special need kids were very disruptive and very abusive towards the staff members, especially the ones that work directly with them. And society already puts a microscope on these people because they feel like they should come to work and be able to handle or take abuse. Hey, Cha-Cha, I'm glad to see you here, girl. Glad you can catch a live. I said I was going to try to come on earlier for my people who, have things to do at night um, and can't make it to the Friday and Saturday lives. But yeah, we're talking about why women are choosing to be child free. I just played a video of a woman who was basically saying how she wanted to be a mother so bad until she had a special needs kid that had autism, but the child is so far on the spectrum and so very disruptive that it's completely upended her life. Like the child hurts their animals, hurts them, is constantly throwing temper tantrums, and now she went and had a hysterectomy. But the thing is, she's gonna have to deal with this child in her life for the rest of her life. And that's the thing. I can understand why women are saying, especially when we're taking away rights for women to make decisions for themselves. I understand why women are saying, like, hey, I don't even want to get pregnant and risk it, because what if you find out before the pregnancy ends that you're going to have a special needs kid, and society is not equipped to deal with special needs kids to an extreme degree. Do y'all understand? There are some supports, but depending on, like, it's not going to work for everybody, especially somebody who doesn't already have a support system, right? And when you're dealing with that level of extremity, guys, let me tell y'all something. I used to work in a mental health facility in San Marcos, Texas. I ain't gonna say the name. Figure it out. With special needs kids, and y'all, there was a unit there where we had boys who were SOs, if you know what I mean. They were doing stuff to their younger siblings and brothers and other people in society. So instead of the court sending them to jail or juvenile, they came and stayed at this particular unit. And y'all, when I tell you, there's no rehabilitation for that. If y'all only knew the stuff that was going on that unit and the things that they were doing to each other. I remember one time I was walking through the unit checking the rooms, and they were like, hey, somebody grabbed me and they were like, hey, we come in the office, we want to talk to you. They showed me video camera of one of the little boys who was there because he would constantly expose himself in public places. But they showed and he was big and tall. They showed me the security footage. That boy was, every time I walked by doing room checks, he was coming behind, like trying to grab my butt, like trying to touch it, all that. It scared the hell out of me, right? But that's not even the worst story. If y'all only knew the stuff these young boys were doing to their siblings, it would break you down in tears, right? Not only that, we had a little girl there who was there because she tried to stab her grandmother twice while she was asleep. It was giving, y'all seen that movie Orphan? It was giving that. So again, I'm not saying if you have a special needs kid, you should not have kids, or and I'm not trying to paint all special needs people as that. I'm just saying that this story highlights that there is a possibility, especially if there's a history of this, that you could have a kid like this. And I understand women who were saying, I don't have a good enough support system to, have a healthy kid, let alone if the kid comes out with special needs, I'm really going to be down on my luck. So that is definitely something to consider. I'm going to put myself back on. Hold on. Let's See, my uncle is a behavioral health tech and works predominantly with children. The stories that I hear are insane to say the least. The parents like to omit information as well. That's true. And sometimes you have situations where it's like purely environmental. Like there are kids who grew up in bad environments, but they're good kids. And I met some of those in those units, right? And then there are some who when you hear about like their parents' mental health issues and the stuff that their parents did to them and the stuff the children are doing to other people, you be like, oh baby, this is a future, this a future Jeffrey Dahmer in the making. Like this is a future. This we gonna see that. We gonna hear about that on TV. Okay, but that's the part everybody likes to act like believe that they're gonna have a little angel. But honestly and truly, if you don't have an environment that's already conducive to having healthy children, and you know that you're not willing to do the work to have a healthy kid, then you shouldn't have them. The problem is the people that sit around and have the most kids are the most toxic people. It's never the people who are gonna be responsible parents, right? Never. Okay? Just like I was talking about at the beginning, the ones who are going to be having the children for that $6,000 newborn baby tax credit that Kamala Harris was having are not going to be anybody who has good sense. Nobody at all. Okay. I'm going to pause myself and go to the next story.
To nobody, to they drama, to they trauma, and to they bullshit. I do not want them problems. I don't want to pile so much onto this life. I really want to live a very minimalistic life. I want less responsibilities, less stuff, less bills. I want less. And I want to just simply be. I don't want to constantly do. I don't want to have to take them to school when I think the school system is similar to a prison system. I'm not a fan of that institution. I'm not a fan of capitalism. I'm not a fan of how they are programming us to be sheep. I'm not a fan how they're programming us to be followers and not to stand up for ourselves. I'm not a fan. So if you're not a fan, don't do it. I don't want to be attached to nobody.
Okay, sis says she not a fan. She not feeling it. Oh, hey, Nina. Okay. So it looks like this is going to be a good time. So I will definitely come on more around this time, as well as, my Friday and Saturday lives. But okay, I got my people in here. You know what I'm saying? I remember what Webby said. I'm in the club. I got my people with me. I ain't gonna cuss. Yes, I love Tira. I'm gonna try to link her channel when I get off the live. But yeah, she's saying I'm not a fan. I don't agree with this society. And then on top of that, people try to force you to conform to this society. People try to force you to think how they think. And if you don't agree with it, why bring kids into it? And yeah, it's easy to live off the grid. It's easy to say, oh, well, just go live off the grid or do your own thing, but that's easier said than done. People look at you weird if you homeschool. They assume that if you homeschool that you're not giving your kids a quality education. But again, as somebody who used to work in the education system in the United States, I can tell you that's absolutely the worst education. And I'm not just talking about content, right? Because a lot of the times when these discussions are being had, they're being politicized. People think that teachers are in the classroom. In most classrooms, they're not teaching kids to be a different gender than what they were born. Like, that's not going on to the extent it's politicized. It's the fact that it's all about money. Even in these so-called democratic states and democratic school districts, y'all would be surprised to know how many, and I'm not talking about any of my former employers, but y'all would be surprised to know how many democratically led school districts have superintendents and people working at the top of school administration stealing money. Then we'll get on the internet and get on Twitter talking bad about the Republicans and talking bad about them not, giving the schools more money. But when the schools are giving more money, the people in administration, even down to a lot of principals, are stealing the money from the kids. I know this for an apple snapple fact. So this is not even a political thing. This is not even a one party thing. You got one party acting like they're championing education and another one saying, hey, let's have the parents have choices. But the ones championing education, they're not doing right with the money when it does come to the school. That's why it don't matter where you go, a Democrat or Republican state, the education is trash across the board. I knew that I didn't want children since the 3rd grade. And the feeling is still present at 28. My mom having my sister when I was 13 was the nail in the coffin. Playing mommy under 2 was not easy. Yes, I think what it is especially with Instagram, it's been romanticized. Having kids, especially when people have a little girl and they're putting them in these cute outfits and hairstyles, and you're like, oh, I want to do that, but at the end of the day, these kids are not accessories, and it's hard to get people who haven't had kids to understand that sometimes. Or here's another thing: if people have kids but they do the bare minimum with their kids, it's hard to make them understand that too. For example, I'm a very hands-on parent, right? Like right now, since my daughter been back with me for the summer, every day I've been doing her lesson plans and teaching her and doing science with her. And I make sure that I do her hair. Like we have conversations, we eat together. When I was back home, taking her back and forth to gymnastics, like I'm very hands-on. I put my daughter above being outside in these streets. Even though it looked like I be in the streets like that. No, I handle my business with my child first. So somebody like me has a hard time explaining that to somebody who might have 2 or 3 kids, but they dropping them off with their mama and their aunties and their cousin and their sister every chance that they get, or they're doing a bare minimum. That when the kids come home, they're not doing their homework with them. They just let them be on TikTok and their internet all day, and they're ordering McDonald's. They're not actually cooking them real food. Yeah, it's still going to be hard being a parent for those people too, especially if they have to work and it's like the financial burden, but they're not coming home and doing that overtime with them kids, right? So these people are going to be more likely to try to argue with you about having kids. Pregnancy has also scared me. The women in my family still have health problems from pregnancies that were decades ago. That brings me to this. And even in that video I was showing earlier where the lady was saying she had the special needs kids. Your body, I wrote it down too. Your body changes after pregnancy. Okay? You are never the same after each child that you have. I don't care if you snap back and you still look good. There are internal things that change and shit. One of the main ones being, you gotta get your urinary tract back right, okay? Because it ain't, baby, you do the wrong jumping jacks at the wrong time of day, and you gonna be peeing on yourself. It's like having a car wreck, right? When you have a car, and every time that car has a car wreck, you might be able to take it to the shop and get it fixed, but that car is never the same internally. That's the same thing that having children does to your body. And if you're okay with making that sacrifice and dealing with the health problems that come along with it, then cool. But there are a lot of women who are like, no, I don't want to deal with that. I don't want to have to deal with going to the doctor because things are shifting or not functioning the same. I don't want to have to deal with not feeling the same in my clothes. I don't want to, if a woman is already in the gym, it's going to be harder for you. I'm not saying you can't do it. You can do it, but it's going to be harder for you when you have kids to fit gym time and your maintenance on yourself into that schedule with the kids. You really have to go out of your way to do it, and you have to make more space for that in your life versus if you don't have kids, you can just get up and go. So your life changes in that way. The power of love can hit at any time. When you find true love, you don't think about anything else. Now, I'm glad you said that, D. Malley, because I think let's talk about Jeannie Mai and Jeezy, right? Remember before Jeannie Mai got with Jeezy, she said she did not want to have any kids. And she got with him and ended up having kids because she loved him. But look at the situation now, right? Now with that said, Jeannie Mai looks like she's an awesome mother. And that's because always the people who don't want to have kids, who understand the depth and the gravity of not having kids, that if they end up having one, they're amazing parents, right? It's rarely the people that want to sit up and have a whole bunch of kids. But with that said, I need women, when we're dealing with men, to stay about our feelings when it comes to certain things. One of those things is pregnancy. And you're right, Emily. When a woman is in love with a man, like truly in love with a man, a lot of the times your hormones gonna tell you that you want to have a kid by this man. What I will say is, if you're a woman who has decided to be child free, you need to remember the reasons why you decided that. And if you are going to change your mind and go ahead and have a kid with this man, you need to have been with him for a while. Like there needs to be some reasons and evidence that are so strong and compelling to make you go ahead and make that switch before you do it. Because once the kid is here, it's here. Share your video on my community section. Oh, thank you so much, Mr. Donnie 908. Thank you. I feel like I've seen you before, but I'm not sure. Let me know. I feel like I've seen you before. I don't know if I've seen you in my live chat. Okay. So yeah, it needs to be a good reason why you decide to change your mind. Don't just do it because you're infatuated. You met this man 6 months ago or even a year ago, and you're like, I just want to have his babies. Your hormones don't tell you that. Hell, your hormones tell you that during ovulation time every month. So you know, you need to keep a clear mind about what you're doing, because kids are nothing to play with. At the end of the day, we're bringing life into this world. Yeah, you seen me before. I think we conversed shortly on one of your videos. Okay, well, I'm glad to see you back. Glad you can catch a live. That's why I said, let me try to do it earlier so more people can come on if this is the time that works best for them. All right, guys, I'm going to go ahead and mute myself again and play this TikTok.
Foods checkout line with my couple items to make my dinner for the day, craving a nice cold salad. I'm gonna go home to a fairly clean house after a long day's work, and there's a woman behind me with two children who are hanging on her by her clothing, swinging around, scrambling on the floor. You can tell that she's visibly overwhelmed. She probably hasn't had good sleep. She's telling them, I'm frustrated, you're not listening to me. And I think to myself, that will never be my reality, and I am so utterly grateful. If there is anything to be grateful for, it is that. I believe that so many women have children out of obligation. I'm not saying anything about this woman in particular. I'm just saying in general, I think that women are misled when it comes to parenthood because they do it alone. And yes, just because she was alone doesn't mean she doesn't have a partner at home, but more often than not, men don't help anyways. And so it's just really sad to see a woman drained next to me feeling like a woman where I'm like, wow, I get to be whatever I want to be because I will never have to be somebody's mommy other than my cats that I choose to bring into my life. All of the energy that would have been sucked up by children will be able to be provided to myself, to my friends, to my family, to my projects, to like anything other than children. I think my life is hard.
Y'all, that's the reality of it. That is the reality of it. And I remember like when I first had my daughter, between the ages of like 1 and 5, I had a really hard time with my daughter, y'all, because she's so overactive. She's overactive, almost like a boy, and she's just now calming down. Luckily, and this is why I say God made my daughter my mission. I feel like I had me all over again, same personality. And now I get to see how might I have turned out if I was raised with an understanding parent and in a good, healthy environment. But when I tell you, it was difficult. Like She was so overactive that the school would call me like every other day to come pick her up. Luckily, at that time, I was working at night. But what if I would have had a day job? I would have had to quit my job. That's why I didn't have a day job. I wouldn't have been able to keep a job because the schools send the kids home for anything now. It's not like back in the day where they gonna hold you all day. If your kid throws up, they're gonna call you, and they might have thrown up just once. They're gonna call you to come get your kid over any little thing. So, as a parent, especially as a single parent, it's not gonna be sustainable for everybody to have a kid. You're gonna be trapped in poverty unless you have another way out. There should be no other reason for a child to be created besides love. Yeah, and then that needs to guide you, right? That needs to guide you. That needs to help you be able to make responsible decisions for the kid. But even then, when we start bringing the economics into it, it's so difficult. Thanks. Gotta show support. Plus, I like what you're saying on the situation. Oh, thank you. Yes. And then even another thing I wanted to bring up too is I feel like a lot of this is what like a lot of men have to learn. And I'm talking about the men who are on the internet talking. I don't necessarily know how the general population of men feel, but I'm talking about these politicians, and I'm especially talking about the men who get on the internet bashing women who want child support and alimony, who have, you know, the custody of the kids, right? Who are doing the day-to-day work with the kids. Um, a lot of these men will talk about these women for wanting to be child free or not having kids, but then be the same type of men bashing women for putting men on child support. You can't have it both ways. Women being more responsible with their reproductive system and choosing not to have kids, that's one less man that got to go into the child support system. That's one less man on alimony. It's a win-win for both of us, in my opinion, for both sides. But it's kind of like I see a lot of these same men who will talk about that's another thing. A lot of women don't want to have children because people get on the internet and devalue single mothers. Well, what if you have children by a man and y'all are not married and you decide to have these kids? What if y'all get divorced? If you get divorced, yes, I guess in the eyes of society, it's less shameful because you were married first, but the outcome is still the same in terms of when you go back out into the dating field, you still got to bring these kids with you. People are still going to be looking at you like a single mom. And a lot of the women are seeing the bashing of the single moms on the internet and saying, I don't want my life to be that way. I don't want my dating life to be hard. I don't want to be seen as somebody less valuable because I have kids. I don't want to deal with the shame of it. So I'm just not going to have any at all. And can you blame women for that when you have a large amount of men coming on the internet making these type of claims and comments or saying they would never date a woman that has children? People got to know whether or not they see forever with the person they are being romantically intimate with. Facts, Mr. Donnie. This is another thing. This goes back to the people who are the most irresponsible are out here having kids. I cannot tell y'all how many women I have seen, not necessarily my friends, but women I grew up with, knew from high school, who had kids by a man and she's never even been in a long-term relationship. Who is the baby daddy? We ain't never even seen you with no man or a partner. Like these people are having kids from situationships. Where in a situationship, lady, you got to know that a man is gonna treat that child how he feel about you. So if you weren't really nothing to him and he didn't really love you like that and he didn't see it for y'all, he's gonna be nonchalant about the child 99 times out of 100. And then I see these same women getting on the internet bashing their baby daddies, but it's like, what were you expecting? There was not even a commitment of a relationship, right? And that's not to let the men off the hook. That's just saying, women, we got to be smarter about the decisions that we're making. If you choose to have a baby by a man who didn't even care about you, you can't possibly expect him to care about the child just because it's his seed, because men don't really connect with that child until the child is born, right? We're the ones who develop this connection through the womb. But if the man ain't there during your pregnancy, if he ain't really, because he don't care about you, and if he ain't really there with you after you had a baby, that bond 9 times out of 10 is never going to be built. Okay, especially if he didn't care about you to begin with. So we got to start being smart about that. All right, let me go to the next one.
Escaped 80% of life's problems by not having children. So I did a video about this on my YouTube channel last year, and it was my most viewed video to date, where I talk about how the only thing that I have to worry about when I wake up in the morning is, do I want coffee or tea? And there's no legitimate reason under the sun for me to ever change that. A lot of people don't have a deep understanding that for many of us child-free women, the decision to be child-free really just comes from not wanting to make our lives harder than it has to be. Because it's like, why would I do that, right? I talked about how I don't have to worry about stuff. And then if I had kids, I would have to worry about a bunch of things, like overnight. If I, right now in my life, I no longer have to live paycheck to paycheck. Now, I'm not bragging or anything like that, but I know what it's like to live paycheck to paycheck because I used to live like that a long time ago. And now I don't have to. Like, I even have things on auto pay now, because we always joke about, you know, you made it if you got things on auto pay. Like, just take it out of this account. You know what I mean? I have stuff like literally coming out of this account on auto pay, like every week, every month, whatever. And so I literally would go right back to living paycheck to paycheck again and struggling again if I had children. And I have no intentions on doing that. And I don't understand why that's hard for people to get. It's almost
Mr. Donnie says, all we do in this society is create broke families and broken homes. Hold on, let me make sure my audio goes on. Okay. All we do in this society is create broke families and broken homes. Sad. I feel for the next generation. Love and long term seems like a thing of the past. Yeah, it really does. I mean, especially now, we see people cannot keep relationships. We see people being unfaithful and immoral as like at an all-time high. Like, people don't even care. Like people joke about that kind of stuff. And I'm not being judgmental. Don't get me wrong, because I'm not trying to sit up here on a high horse. I just feel like we think a lot of stuff is funny and we think a lot of stuff is cute. And the main people that think a lot of this stuff is funny and cute are the main ones having multiple children, right? Bringing children into multiple toxic situations. And like she was saying, it's hard. Like, okay, I know people who are single and broke today in the US because the economy is so bad. They are single and broke, right? They're single and broke with college degrees. Now, imagine being single and broke with some kids. It's one thing for you, it's a different level of stress, anxiety, and shame when you have children and you don't make enough money to keep the refrigerator full and your kids are looking at you like you're hungry, whereas you might have just gone and bust you open some noodles or maybe gone a day or two without eating. When you have kids, you can't do that. You have to try to figure out how to make something shake, right? And that adds an additional level of stress to your life, especially if you're having to start back from the bottom or you have some setbacks. Guys, childcare is starting at no less for one kid. You're not going to pay no less than $600 a month for childcare. And that's on the low end. I remember my daughter when we stayed in Texas, she was going to a before and after school program because I had to go to work early, and I had to go to work before her school started, and then I wasn't able to get her until after her school let out. So I was paying $360 a month for this before and after school program. Now, again, I'm gonna say this again. I would go back and have my daughter again. I would absolutely do it again. She's worth them to me. But it was very hard, right? Because that's on top of all my other expenses. And there were plenty of days where I cried, and there was plenty of days where I was stressed out. And it ultimately aided in my decision to be like, I can't afford to raise a child here in the United States. I just can't. So y'all see I'm over here in Colombia now. But not everybody has that option. What if I got lucky in the fact that my daughter's dad got on board with me moving. He didn't like it at first. I got lucky in that. Let me say this, I'm even lucky and blessed that not only is my daughter's dad he is on child support, and not because he wasn't helping before she was born. It's so we don't have to talk about the money. It just comes. But I'm also blessed enough to have a child's father who doesn't say stuff like, if I call him today and be like, hey, can you buy her whoop de whoop from school? I'll send you the link and have it. He's gonna buy it. I can also call and be like, hey, can you pay her gymnastics and all? He's gonna pay it. He's not gonna give me any problems. He's not gonna say, oh, well, I pay this in child support. He's not gonna do any of that. He gonna come up off of the funds every single time. But most women are not blessed like that. Okay, especially if you put the man on child support, he gonna hate you and resent you. My daughter's dad, I kind of think he liked being on child support, to be honest, because I've offered to take him off, and he said, "No, keep me on here." I had a friend in her early 50s unalive herself not too long ago. My theory is that she was lonely without ever birthing offspring. Well, that might have been her, but I can also say, D. Malley, I know plenty of older women who have never had kids, and you know what they do? A lot of these older women who never had kids, they become kind of like surrogate mothers to younger women. I see them do that. Most of the time when I see if I see an older woman who is lonely, it's because she doesn't live a full life. You understand? Like, she doesn't have friends. She might just work and go home. But a lot of the older women that I know who never had kids and don't really have any regrets about it have adopted daughters. I actually got adopted when I was 17 by a woman who did not have any kids. My mom, she doesn't have my adopted mom, my mom. She does not have any kids that she birthed on her own. And what happened with her is she said, if I get to 35 and I don't have any kids, I'm not having any. Well, she got to 35, didn't have any kids, and just chose to remain that way. And she ended up adopting me and my sister Lupe. And she has a very full and fun life, right? And by the time she adopted me and Lupe, we weren't babies. That's another thing. So she didn't have to deal with that stress of going through the child development stages. She adopted Lupe when Lupe was 15, 16, and I got adopted 2 weeks before I turned 18. And we just been in each other's life, and she's been, that mother to me. So there are other options for women who don't want to have children and go through that child development stage. And then also, she has a woman in her life who is like her adopted mom who never had kids either. And they get along just great. Single and broke with some kids, sheesh. That's some nasty work right there, baby. When I tell you, it is literally hell on earth. If you've ever been there, especially if you had a financial setback, like, that ain't nothing to play with, especially with the way the economy is going. And I'm gonna keep going back to this. I am really disturbed that they offered people a $6,000 tax credit for newborn babies as an incentive, because it's giving ghetto. Like, that the Democrats did that. It's giving ghetto. It's giving they are the enemy. It's giving they are not your friend. It is giving who told you to do that. It's giving why have enemies when you have friends like this, especially to minorities and people who are working class or in the lower classes of society. No, ma'am. All right, let me continue with this video. And guys, this is the Sovereign Woman. She's on YouTube and TikTok.
Because it's like, what part of I'm comfortable and I don't want to change that do people not get? Like, and if you're pretending to not get it, I'm thinking it is because you're miserable and you're upset that other people won't be joining you in your misery. I never have to know what it's like to have a kid unalived in a school, pew-pewing, or to be bullied or harassed or unalived in any way, assaulted in any way. Like, I'm never going to have to experience that. I don't want to experience these things, you know? A lot of times you guys think that going through things builds character. And I'm like, maybe it does in some ways, depending on what it is and who it is. But I don't want to go through my kids being harmed and unalived to build my character. You know what I'm saying? I don't want to go through homelessness to build my character. I don't want to lose everything that I've worked hard for. I don't want to go back to living paycheck to paycheck to build my character. I would rather build my character by reading books, by learning about different cultures and learning about people and studying human psychology and studying plants and animals and whatever. You know what I mean? Studying the universe in which we live in, right? I would rather build my character by getting out and helping to volunteer at soup kitchens and stuff. Like, that is how I build my character. And I don't
That was really interesting dialogue, especially for somebody like me, because I've been on both ends, right? So I've I built my character by going through a lot of things. A lot. I don't look like what I've been through, y'all, at all. I could write. Y'all remember that man that wrote that book? It was a three-part book called The Child Called It. And like the first half was his childhood. The first part was his childhood. The second part was him as a teenager. And the third part was him as an adult baby. I could write a series like that. And each and every book gonna bring people to tears, right? And I absolutely do believe that struggling like that built my character. However, I will say that the majority of people that I know who went through even half of the things that I went through, they don't come out all right. They're not okay. They're not happy. They're not thriving. Okay. Some of them doing all right, finally. But the majority of the people that I know that went through things that I went through, they down bad in life. I know some of them that are in prison. I know some of them that are on the blade on that stroll. I know some of them who are just homeless. I know a lot of people like that. Who so yeah, like I agree, going through things builds character if you can survive the fire. And I totally understand what she was saying as far as there are healthier ways to strengthen yourself and build character, right? Through learning from other people, reading books, starting a really hard task like going to school or learning a new craft and going through the ups and downs of that. There are healthier ways to build character than putting yourself in a position where you have to struggle. And if you already know that you don't have the support system there to maintain a family, then not only are you going to be putting yourself in a position to have to build character, you're going to be putting those children in a position to have to build character. Let's continue.
associate struggle with building character, especially if it's something that you can avoid. I am not about to get up every day and make my life a living hell just because people think that's what makes a real woman or that's what makes a real adult when you have all these million and one responsibilities. Like, no, I'm not going to do that. And I'm speaking for myself, and I'm also speaking for all the other child free women out there, and even women who have kids but are like, I'm one and done. You know what I mean? Or I'm two and done, and that's it. Y'all got me effed up. So people have the right to live their lives how they want. But the reason why I say I escaped 80% of life's problems by not having kids is because most problems that women have in their lives tend to come from the stresses of parenthood or motherhood, and also from whatever spouse that they're living with or having to deal with, right? It is what it is. Those are the two, a man and some kids. Those are the two major stressors on a woman's life. Of course, you got money problems, and you have all these other things, the beauty standards and all that crap, right? But the main two things, kids and a man. And I am without both. And I plan.
Y'all, she didn't tell no lies right there. Kids and the man. Now, I'm to the point in my life where my daughter is good. You feel me? She don't stress me out. You know what I'm saying? We're past those hard stages, right? But I was just thinking about this, and this is part of the reason why I'm still single. And people can say, oh, you retract what you date or what you're attracted. Y'all, I have dated men from every single socioeconomic class. I don't date within one race of men. When I done dated the rainbow, okay? I done dated men of all occupations. If I don't date, like, for example, I see a lot of women who they'll sit up and talk about they don't date black men, and then they go get a white man who behaves and dresses and acts like, the stereotypical black. I don't do that. When I go outside of my race, I go get something that mirrors that race, that is characteristic of that race. When I tell you, it never fails without fail. It always becomes stressful for me, and it never really gets past a certain stage because they all come with too many problems, and too many problems too soon. So for example, I'm the type of person who, if I meet somebody and we just started dating and I'm going through other things in my life, I don't put that on them. Like, I'm handling my situation over here, and when I get with you or I'm talking to you, this is like an escape, or I'm not trying to put my problems on you. Really, and I don't do that with hardly anybody in my life unless I know them really well. But even then, I'm very careful about that, and I don't expect people to solve my problems for me. You understand? It's it's kind of like most of the men that are out here now, they're very unhappy, and it's always something wrong. They always going through something, even if initially it presented like they had themselves all the way together. So you end up not even being able to kind of get to know them or have a good time with them, because things become really depressing. You having to take on their problems way too quick. And I'd be like, oh, heck no. Like, I already got enough stress in my life, and you're putting so much on me. And a lot of times it feels like they're telling you all this stuff because they want you to offer to help them out or fix the problem for them. And baby, I don't got that for you. I don't even know you like that. I don't even know you like that. And I'm not going to fix your problems for you. So she's right about that. That a lot of times it seems like when you have, women who are with men for a long period of time have to take on additional problems. Girl, if you're not self-sacrificing, it's almost impossible to be with a man. Hey, I think this is my first time seeing you. Girl, I cannot tell you how, well, I'm not gonna say how many, because to be honest, this has happened a few times to where, like, okay, I actually kind of started caring about the person. Once they see that they cannot get a lot out of you, especially a lot out of you really soon, they don't really want too much of nothing to deal with you, to be honest, or they start treating you different. It's like they're trying to punish you for saying, no, I'm not. No, I'm not doing that. No, you can't hold boundaries. If you hold boundaries with men, they don't want nothing to do with you, to be honest. That and then they'll try to come back later on, but no, you already kind of showed me you want somebody that you can use. But yes, if you are not like willing to do everything for them and uh fix every single problem for them and put aside your goals, dreams, and hopes and aspirations, it is hard to keep a man. It's not hard to keep a man. Only thing you got to do to keep a man is to do everything he wants you to do. Sacrifice your entire life for him. Now, you can keep him. That don't mean he's gonna respect you. That don't mean he's not gonna be out here making you look crazy out and about. But you can keep him. Most of the time, most nights, he gonna come home and he gonna sleep with you, right? But it's to the point where do you, as a woman, do you want to be dealing with that type of stress and picking up scraps like that? Is it that worth it just to have a warm body next to you every single night? My name is Lonnie. Hey, girl. Hey, Lonnie, you're so pretty. I'm glad to see you here. Yeah, but you trust me, you're right about that. And sovereign woman ain't telling no lies. Hey, I'm gonna mute myself and finish your video up.
On being without both forever. The kid thing is for sure not happening. Done, right? I can't wait till I hit menopause, or that way nature wouldn't make that decision for me. Then I ain't got to worry about it no more. But the whole aspect of being in a relationship, like, there's like no benefit for me to do that. Like no benefit. I see all the ways in which it can ruin my life. I see zero ways where it can make my life better. So if I take away those two major problems that cause women the most strife in their lives, what strife do I really have to deal with now? Little stuff like don't be late to work, or make sure my Amazon packages come on time. My Fashion Nova jeans need to be here before Friday because I plan on taking them on my trip. You know what I mean? Those are the types of things that I worry about every day, and I want to keep it that way. If you think it's selfish and self-absorbed or whatever, then that's too bad. But I plan on being selfish and self-absorbed until the day I die. Anybody who have a problem with that, that's exactly what it is. It's your problem. Scamper off and find a way to deal with it. And I'm out. I've escaped.
Y'all remember in The Color Purple, the original, when Suge Avery said folks don't like folks being too free? I feel like that's how society feels when they see child-free women. Especially a lot of women now. I understand. I have a kid myself. But everything these women who were saying that they don't want to have kids are saying, like, it all makes sense to me. I don't have no reason to hate on them. One reason why I don't have a reason to hate on them is because I have the mentality where I haven't let my child stop me. Now, it slowed me down for sure. Some dreams have been delayed. On another note, though, me having a daughter has inspired me, as she gotten older, to make more of myself, because I want her to have something that she can, a role model that she can look up to. Like, my mom didn't let anything stop her. She created something for herself, right? But imagine all the women who sit around who, because they had kids, they did not accomplish their dream. It slowed them down so much that they came to a halt and they never made anything of themselves. And they're looking at all these women who don't have any additional responsibilities. A lot of them feel away. A lot of them feel away, and they want to punish these women who were just like the sovereign woman, who get up and go and do what they want to do and do as they please. And we got to stop doing that. We got to stop being jealous and envious. If you already have kids, you're slowed down. Your life ain't over, right? But you can't blame somebody else for saying, I don't even want to be slowed down. That's their choice. Okay, let's go to the next one.
them that you don't want kids, or they try to fight with you and tell you that you're going to change your mind. No, babe, I'm good. And listen, all respect to people that do want to be parents. I just don't want to be a parent. Why can't some people just accept that? Like, it's just so weird. Do you experience the same thing too? Why do some people get so weirded out when you tell them that you don't want kids?
And that goes back to, we got to stop harassing these girls. You know what? To me, that question, why don't you want to have kids, that doesn't really make sense, especially this day and age. I'm more concerned as to why you do want to have them. That needs to be the question. Like anybody who's walking around saying they want to have kids, especially when I hear people say, I want to have 4 or 5 kids today in 2024 in this economy, I stop and ask them why. Why do you want to do that? Like that's the first question to come into my head, not seeing people who say they don't want to have kids and asking them why, or telling them you'll change your mind. Okay, well maybe they will, maybe they won't, but that's not for us to say to them, right? And again, if people have logical reasons as to why they're not doing something that outweigh your personal feelings, then you gotta let them have it. I keep having random men that, can you finish that, Lori? Finish that for me. I think you meant to say something else. Okay, and then I'm gonna go to my last TikTok. Oh, there you go. Ask me when I'm getting married or having kids. Like, sir, I just said hello. Right. And let me tell you something. I have seen marriage be a good thing for certain women in certain circumstances. Okay. For example, and this is why women shouldn't be worried or concerned about not getting married when you're young. Because a lot of times the women who are getting married super young, getting married right out of high school, getting married to their first love, getting married and being the first wife, they are dealing with a lot of trauma real young, especially the ones that choose to stay with that man for a really long time, because that man has to go through a growing period, especially when he got to go grow through that stage where his testosterone is through the roof. Okay. So women should not care about getting to a certain age and still not being married, because you're bypassing a lot of foolishness 99 times out of 100. When I've seen marriage been like cool, I know a couple women who got married after their kids were, either grown or dang near grown, to men who were older, and but they're the same age. So I'm not talking about an age gap relationship. They're about the same age. These are both, middle aged or older people. And the man been on his job for a while. He in his set routine. He come home, pay the bills, let her go. If she want to go out on the weekend, go to the casino, he let her do that. She just make sure he got that plate when he come home from work, and it's peace. No arguing. You know what I'm saying? And I've seen that. I know of a woman who got with a man, they got together later in life. He had already had kids and a whole other family, got divorced, got with her, took over her mortgage, and then when he retired, gave her some of his retirement money. But it was peace. They were always peaceful. You could tell they got together because it worked. There was no arguing. Everybody knew what they were doing. If something broke down on the house, he would come and fix it. Real old school type of country dude, right? But she told me, look, I never even thought I was gonna get married. She did not get married until she was in her late 50s and happy, got a good life. So women shouldn't be worried about that. And if you decide you don't get married, cool. But you do bypass a lot of these things that these younger women are going through, especially when you have more wisdom and discernment to choose better when you decide to get married, right?
miserable at their own lives and the choices that they've made. And oh, no. A bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable at their own lives and the choices that they've made. And oh, no. A bunch of childless cat ladies who are miserable.
Like, the obsession with women having animals needs to be studied. Why are men so obsessed with women having pets? As if women are the only people that have pets. There are plenty of like men who have dogs and pets. Like, I'm trying to understand the obsession and why, you know, the whole cat lady thing. To me, that's very reminiscent of like the Salem witch trials, where, you know, they would round up all the women who were single and had their own mind and burn them at the stake. That's what it's giving. And I love these women's response to that, because first of all, let me say this. I noticed that white women who don't have children, who are child free, they be looking good. They do be looking good. When they be in their 40s and stuff, they do be looking good. And I made it a point to show other races of women, because this is not a racial discussion. This is by no means a racial conversation. This is worldwide. All women across all backgrounds, all socioeconomic classes are having the same discussion here. This is not this has nothing to do with a particular race of men as to why women are having these discussions. Like, this is worldwide. I think a lot of times we get in our own little echo chambers and our own little bubbles, and we think these problems are just isolated, or within our community. And sure, in some communities, certain issues are more turned up than others, right? But for all women across the board, it's bad enough to where it's gotten here. And these women look good. Who wouldn't want to look that good and have gotten a little bit older? And I want them honey. I want that kind of money. At least I want that money. I ain't even gonna lie. Great topic. You chopping. Good game. Thank you so much, D Mally, and thank you for always supporting. So, yeah, I think that child-free women need to be understood. I think when we hear women saying they don't want to have kids, that decision should be supported rather than questioned. And I think we need to let go of the jealousy and the envy. I'm looking over here because I had some notes. I had some things that I wanted to hit as to why women don't want to have kids. This is something I want to bring up. I don't want to let this miss me. A lot of women don't want to have kids because they are afraid at how the man is gonna act. I've talked to some women who are really in love with their partners and they have a really great dynamic, and they don't want to have kids because they don't want the man to change after they've had kids. And when I say change, I mean, y'all, and a lot of y'all women can probably attest to this if you talk to other women. I have met so many women who had men chase them, court them, marry them, get them pregnant, and as soon as they got pregnant, start mistreating them. I've seen cases where the men won't sleep with them no more. I've seen cases where the men became emotionally and verbally abusive, just treating them like they ain't nothing. A lot of these women are gonna be, and this ain't to talk about her because she do be spinning some real game. But a lot of these women that are gonna end up like that are gonna be these women who got with these men for the bag, and these men chased them all up and down, got with them, married them, and then boom, that switch up, that bait and switch happens, right? And I'm not making that up. There have been several stories of YouTubers who were putting their relationships on blast. And then when everything came out, we found out that man was not all what it was cracked up to be. A lot of times men fake the amount of money that they have. Okay, they're doing a whole bunch of stuff for you, but they're running up credit cards or credit lines or something like that, or borrowing the money and making it look like they have more than what they have. And then when that baby comes, all of a sudden they're being financially abusive and cheap. Yeah, the idea that we are the ones that trapped them was all projection. Yeah, yeah. And to be fair, Lonnie, I mean, I do know some women who have had these are these situationship babies. I do know women who got pregnant by a man that didn't really want them and, decided to still have the baby thinking he was gonna stay or want them or marry them. That is true. But then that kind of goes both ways because a lot of these times I was talking to this man here in Colombia and he was Cuban from Miami. And he was, he's like almost 50, never been, had kids or never got anybody pregnant. And I was like, "Oh, you never had kids?" I was like, that's so like that's so out of the norm for me to meet a man your age with no kids. He was like, "No, this is on purpose. Men who get these women pregnant, they're not doing that on accident. You got to go out of your way and purposely get these women pregnant." He's like, "I'm very much child free on purpose." That's what that man told me. And it got me to thinking, like, yeah, a lot of times these men do sit up and they will ejaculate in you and try to play like they didn't know that they did, or try to play like they didn't know what happened. I have talked to a couple of men who have baby mothers who they mistreat, and they told me they intentionally impregnated her. So that definitely happens. A lot of times a man, let's say you're in a relationship with a man and y'all been going back and forth, but he sees that you're thinking about breaking up with him or you threaten to break up with him, he will get you pregnant. He will get you pregnant. I can sense that women don't trust men to treat them the way they should. It's a yeah. And then that's a really tough situation because it's not something you can take back. Like if you had a baby with a man trusting that he was gonna treat you right, if that switch up comes, you don't get a redo, you don't get a reverse. There's no backing out of it. Especially when it's a situation where the man was good up until a certain point to where in a pregnancy where you can't even do nothing about it now. And then another thing is a lot of women just don't want to go through being in relationships with men, having babies with them, and feeling like single mothers. Let's be for real here. This is not the 1950s. Most women work. Most women have a job, right? So you have a lot of women who are going to work, giving everything they can to a job and coming home, and that's like the second shift. And a lot of the men who are just going to work and coming home and sitting down chilling and not helping with anything else, just kind of kicking their feet up and wanting to relax. And then the woman got to hear that she's nagging when she asks him to help. Then she got to feel like she's the problem or she's the one making the relationship bad because she just won't be quiet and toil without complaints. So you can't get mad at women for saying, "Nah, I don't want to take that risk with my life and another human's life, and I don't want to have to feel like I resent my decisions or resent my child." Because that's another thing. There are plenty of women. If y'all go on Quora and some of these forums, there are plenty of women who talk about how they resent their children. And if you already feel like that's the kind of feeling that you would hold in your heart for your child, if your life had to change as a result of having them in your life, then I wouldn't suggest having kids. I think it takes a certain type of person to have kids. And I'm gonna be real with y'all. People say that like the majority of women were just naturally built. Yeah, we're naturally built to birth the kids. I don't think that the majority of women are naturally built to nurture a kid. I don't think so. I don't think so. If so, there wouldn't be so many traumatized kids running around here. I meet more traumatized people who were traumatized from their childhood than not. I meet more women who put men and silly stuff ahead of their kids than put their kids at the forefront. Even the ones that be sitting up talking about, I'm a package deal, and, you know, my kids come first. Those type of women be the main one out and about in these streets and not doing what they should be doing as a parent. Okay. But guys, that's really, let me see. I'm gonna go ahead, if y'all want to, I'm gonna put my link in the chat. If anybody wants to come up here and give their opinion, I'm gonna let you do that before I get on out of here. So I'm gonna give y'all about 2 minutes for somebody to kind of, and you don't gotta be on camera. Because I understand, you know, you might not be photo camera ready. You can just get on here with your little avatar and we can chop it up. So I'll wait a little bit. But yeah, guys, this was a really good live. I actually liked coming on at this time. Now I have the rest of my day to kind of go do my things and take my daughter to the park. I'm gonna go to the gym. I'm gonna finish up some other work that I had to do. And for those of y'all who don't know, I have a travel channel. It's called ThePassportSis. I started it not too long ago, and it's to partner with my TikTok, ThePassportSis. So my following is quickly growing on TikTok. So if you're interested in travel, if you are interested in somebody putting together travel plans and itineraries for you, I do that too. Just hit me up at my mariah.brown at travel. Yeah, that's what it is. And again, I do consultations if you need help with any life problem or if you need a plan to help get your life together. I'm living proof, guys. At the beginning of the year, I was not where I wanted to be. I was struggling. I was a teacher in Texas, and I felt like I was drowning. Now, a little more than 6 months later, I'm living in a whole nother country. Right, I'm living in a whole another country with a daughter, and I have completely changed my life in the way that I live. So if you need help with that, hit me up on my email, mariahclayton17@gmail.com. All right, guys. It's been a really good live. I will see y'all again around this time on Wednesday. Okay, and then I'm gonna do my weekend lives as well for my people that be up, you know, my people that like to put their bonnet on and lay in bed with your wine and rub your feet together. We will see y'all on Friday and Saturday. All right, been a good talk, y'all. Y'all have a good day.